So basically this is design foundation, like the basic, the elementary part of design, and what you really need to know about UI UX. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
I'm here. I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I said this is like the basic and elementary stuff you need to know when it comes to UI UX and anything design generally. If you are missing out, so a lot of people they will want to become a graphic designer and they will just go and learn how to use the software straightforward. They did not know the foundation and everything, and that's how they keep on having issue, because even if you run away from this thing, you still have to learn it the hard way. Okay, bro.
Yeah,
So design foundation, and what is design? Design basically is like you trying to solve problem. A ṣe CV, we did CV 105 now, and CV 105 in the bronze age they were trying to like manufacture tools for better use, and from the process of matching two stone together so that they can create a spark in order to light something,
yeah,
in order to light something to the stage of you having match is just a single stick that will do all the hard job for you. So that's design, and design normally evolves with time. And also there is no new design outside that doesn't come from a previous existing design. Someone can't just sit down and just sleep like this. That okay, for example, let's assume there is no phone. Do you understand? Let's assume there is no phone and someone just be like, I want to create something that we be calling phone, and the person will now design phone to an extent of designing iPhone 14 Pro Max. Is that possible? No. So the only reason why they can develop iPhone 14 Pro Max was because we have iPhone 13. They have something else to work on. They have something else to look and derive more inspiration and be much more innovative. So that's design. So graphics design. Graphics design is just like creating graphics in a visual appealing way and trying to like convey information to your audience. Maybe I want to tell you that, for example, maybe we have a church program. We have a church program and I want to tell people our church program will be so 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 date and everything. Then I will have to like schedule it in a form of information hierarchy. I will create a team, the program team. We add the picture of our pastor so that you can know the minister. You add their name, you add the address, every other thing. Then you will arrange it in a much more pleasant way so that people will know that okay, this is a very, people will be able to like understand the information you are trying to convey to them on the design. So moving to the next one, we have lines. In designs, we have what you call lines. So hold on. Stacking that I was using. Where is that? Let me create another. So basically in design we have lines. It's just that the way atom is the basic or is the smallest particle of an element, that's the way we have lines. Line is like is everything. Anything you are seeing, if you are seeing a shape, for you to be able to draw this shape, that is because you are joining two lines, four lines together, and then creating a form of opacity in the middle so that they know that it's an object, and that's line. Line is the basic of anything in design. If you are missing out lines, there's everything is made up, even text. If you are writing A For example, if you are writing A, then you are joining some lines together like this. This is A, this is B. So everything in design is lines, but lines can be in different curve, different ways and everything. So anything in design is line. Any shape you are drawing, any stuff you are, so that's line. And we have curve, thick, thin, solid and not solid, different type of line. And they are used to connect 2 points, separate section of a design and focus the user's eye. So that's the work of line in design. Line is anything from one point to another, and they can use to form any form of shape whatsoever. Next one is shapes. So in design we have different type of shapes. We have square, we have normal line, we have arrow, we have arrow, we have circle, we have triangle. And also if you want to increase the sizes of your triangle maybe to 5, that's when you have polygon. You can increase it to as many sides as possible based on any form of shape you want. And also we have star. This is star. You can reduce the amount of angle your star you want your star to have. It can be 4, it can be 3, but it can't be less than 3. Then you can increase it as much as possible for stars. And then you have image. So for example, maybe you are trying to import an image, then you import it just the way I did it. This is how you import your image. You can resize it, and that's all about all the form of shapes you have in design. So any form of other shapes you want to create, you can create it with the basic of these shapes. For example, maybe you want to create a box that has an angle of an angle ball. You know what I mean by a box that have an angle ball?
Yeah.
So maybe you want to create a box that have an angle ball just like this. So these are the shapes, then you will merge them together with these tools. So you have created your shape. So any form of shapes you want to create, regardless of icon, maybe you are creating icon, you want to draw anything, you can do it by merging any of all the shapes here together. And that's it. You just have to like think about how you want to solve the problem, how you want to do it, and that's all. So that's all about shapes. And shapes can be used to, like I said, shape can be used to create icon, symbols, and any form of stuff you want to create in your design. You just have to know how to combine and how to solve the problem. That's all about shapes. And we have texture. We all know cloth texture now.
Yes.
Yeah, we all know texture. Texture is, for example, if you see some clothes, you know that, oh, this cloth is,
It's quality.
yeah, this cloth is quality, this one is bright, this one is, so textures work with more like contrast. For example, if you have these two shape and then you give this one, you automatically notice this one before you notice this one. So that's because of the texture and how things are. And in texture we have
Please,
shadows.
Omole, can you off your mic? It's difficult for me to hear from here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Omole, please can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So we have texture and we have everything. We have shadow, we have create texture, we have any form of, so in design too, for example, for that shadow you might want to create shadow. And I actually love Figma because the way shadow is very easy to create in Figma, unlike all these Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. Those one, once you create a shadow through any object like this now, the stuff will be very heavy and If your computer is not strong, it might be lagging, that kind of stuff. But this one, just add just add an effect and it automatically give you the shadow. You can increase the position on y axis, you can increase it on x axis and any form of stuff. So this one is very straightforward. We still come back to this. Den moving on to the next one, which is typography. So in design, typography actually like means a lot. Once you are missing typography, then you are missing a whole lot. Once you are missing typography, then you are missing a whole lot. What I mean by typography is because everything you are trying to like information you want to, you can actually convey information through ordinary shapes. But if you check most design, there is no way you will see text, you will see a whole lot of text. And then how you want to prioritize those text, how you want to arrange it, how you want to make it visual appealing, and the form of text, the form of font you will be using for your typography, different kind of stuff. So you have to consider everything when it comes to typography. So like in here now, you see typography is everywhere we look. It is in the book we read, it is on the website, it is in our day to day life. There is no way you will open your phone and you won't read something. So that's typography. So typography is a very like is one of the bedrock of design. Whenever you are missing typography or you don't know how to do typography, then you will definitely have issues when it comes to design. So and when it comes to typography, we have fonts, and fonts are the way our text are written. We have three main different type of fonts. We have some others too, but we just have these three main. Three main are serif type of font, sans serif and display. So if you notice very well, when we are writing projects, Kabiyesi will be like you must write it in Times New Romance and all those kind of stuff. So all those kind of or like Times New Romance is a serif type of font. The reason why we call them serif type of font is because of this serif. So these extended shape here and the one below are what we call serif. Like for this R2, normally the R should be like this, but it is extended here, extended here, extended here, and we added a ball-like structure here. So those are what we call serif. And any font that doesn't have those kind of extended stuffs are what we call sans serif. So serif is an ancient type of font and it is being known for its elegance, his ability, like the way for him to Sheriff normally stand out. If you check e-commerce websites, like real e-commerce or let me say fashion, don't let us use e-commerce. Let's say fashion website, you will see the way they write their let me go to Google so that you can even see an example. Oh, this one is still normal. Let me go to another one. So here they are trying to use sans serif type of font, and the reason why they normally use serif type of font for fashions fashion most times is because of its elegance, how Sherif type of font normally look. Okay, can you see this one Ayodele? Can you see the way the font is? So they normally use serif type of font for something much more classy or much more fashionable. So that's one of the main purpose of serif type of font. When you are trying to create something of elegance, then you will use serif. And then we have sans serif. Sans serif is the most common, like it's what you even see all the front of your phone, you see sans serif. Even if you want to post WhatsApp status, it's sans serif. The reason why it's sans serif is because it doesn't have this extended part. Can you see it? It doesn't have this extended part in its own figure, like the way normal A we have extended part here, extended part here, that kind of stuff. So sans serif is just normally is very clean and very clear to read. There is nothing jam packed, there is nothing, nothing. It's just very plain and is the most widely used type of font because of their easy to convey information. They are very easy to use to convey information. That's sans serif. And we have another one which is display font. So any form of font that doesn't look serif or sans serif are display. For example, you can see this font now. This font is called Old English font. Everything is very somehow. It's not like complying with a series of shapes. The shapes are just somehow and they are very irregular. They are mainly designed specifically for some specific type of information. So this type any other font that doesn't fall under serif and sans serif are display fonts, and this is how they look. So when you are trying to combine fonts, whenever in the design you are when you are designing websites most times make use of sans serif type of font because that's what like 90 something percent of people use. But when you are trying to use serif type of font, you can also use it in website. But whenever you are using serif type of font, you may decide to use serif type of font for your whole website depending on the kind of product you are using. And then most times try and combine serif. You can use serif for headings and you can use sans serif for body text. Okay, sorry, is it clear before I move forward? Is everything clear?
Yes, I
Yes.
understand. It's clear.
Yes.
All right. So moving to the next one, we have colors. So color means a whole lot. Even in Google, if you are working in Google, some people their specialization is working on color. They decide the kind of color they want to use on any form of text and anything because any f- you won't even notice normal human being you realize that for example maybe you have a website and the way you the kind of color you use for some text that you know that is very important you want people to use, you realize that people are not actually reading it, they are not actually interacting with it. Why? Then you be like, why are they not interacting with it? And when you now call a color specialist, the person will be like, okay, different type of users normally have issues reading something like this, reading that, reading the so you realize that color is actually passing a whole lot of information. Some people also have color blindness. So that's you have to put everybody into consideration when you are designing anything, both people with color blindness, because if you create a two buttons now, one is in black and white and the other one is in red, and someone that doesn't that have color blindness for red, that can't see a red color, that can only see red color as white and black, you just see the two buttons as the same and be like, okay, which one should I click? Both of them look alike, that kind of stuff. So color is very important when you are trying to create kind of where you are trying to convey information in design. And we have value. Value is the measure of darkness. Value and texture like they sound similar because if you look at these two shapes, realize that once you come here, you will first of all see this one and you see this one. Then the value of this one is much more better than this one. That is value of contrast is much more better. So value works in darkness and lightness mode. Whenever you are creating some kind of elements in your design, then you have to measure the value. When you are using a background of a low value, then you must choose a text of a high value. You understand? When you are using a background of low value, you must use a text of high value because you want the text to come out very well on the design. So and if you are using a background of high value, you must choose a text of low value so that it can actually like stand out. But if you are using two elements of same, for example, maybe you want to place this thing on this one, you can see that it's still actually different, although the contrast is still somehow very close to each other, but it's still different. But let's now use something like this, you having two different value, although there are two colors, but you can hardly even tell that something is inside because their value is somehow very close. But let's now use something of this, can you see the difference? So that's what
Yes.
value communicates. So when you are trying to design, you have to compare the value, the contrast and everything. It's just not just giving it any form of color. And in colors too, we have color combinations. And if you want to know more about color combinations, go to color.adobe.com. Color.adobe.com. You can search for it on Google, it will show you. So you can learn how to like combine colors through color.adobe.com. And the next one is size in design. So if you are doing sizes in design, maybe you type hello James, what is, now give both a font size of 40 pixel, and you give both of them a both attribute, they actually look the same. Like, you are not trying to pass across any form of other information. Don't let me use this one sef, let me use another text. So can you see, there are two different text, but you won't even know, you will just read them as one. That's because they have, they have the same size. So when you are designing, you have to maintain, you have to give, or let me say object or shape or anything, you have to give them size based on how important they are, how you want them to, how you want users to like capture it. Do you understand? So instead of we using same particular, same kind of attribute, same kind of size for hello James and the text underneath, let's now use something of 12 pixel. So everybody will know that, okay, this is the header, or let me say this is the first message. Once you go to any particular, once you see a flyer or a website or anything, and you have the two stuffs like this, you automatically know that I want you to read hello James first before you read the one at the top. That's because of the size I'm giving it. So let me now give it another form of color. Then you realize that, okay, the one at the top, at the bottom, is not actually, doesn't really carry a whole lot of information, is not really that important. The most important thing is the one at the top. That's because of the size and the kind of color contrast I give it. So that's how you need to know how to combine colors. Yeah, I give this one black, something very deep, and this one is also black too, but it's not really that deep, because I want people to focus more on Hello James, and the ones they are interested in Hello James, they will be happy to read what's underneath. But let's talk about a case whereby they are just the same thing. You will even be frustrated, which kind of stuff is this? And it will be eye disturbing. So you just move on to the next one without even reading anything. And that's a very bad user experience. So like I said, balance in design. You have to know how to balance both text, color, and everything in design. When it comes to design, you have to know how to balance them. Once you are missing it out, then you are missing it out. So you must learn how to balance all these things in design. You understand? So moving on to the next one, alignment in design. So alignment and repetition are something you can never omit. If you go to a e-commerce website, let's go to an e-commerce website like Jumia. Jumia, okay, this is Jumia. We have this, we have this, we have this. Basically, when they are designing it, they are actually the same thing. You just have to repeat it. You understand? You just have to repeat it. You repeat 4 elements on this row, then you create another row too. You duplicate this very particular row and create and duplicate it on that. Then that's how repetition works in design. And if you should notice, all of them aligns with each other. They all have the same height and the same length. And apart from that, even if they don't have the same height length and the same length, they are actually aligned at the top. They are very closely packed with each other. They have some kind of alignment. So let me try and explain it in Figma. Maybe you draw this shape, you duplicate it like this. So so This is repetition. The shapes are actually the same thing. We have I've already duplicated it into four. They're already four now. So that's how duplication work. When you are trying to like replicate objects in design, you just duplicate. And instead of you duplicating and you realize that okay, you make a mistake and you want to work on the mistake, you want the mistake to appear on others, then do it and turn the object you want to duplicate, turn it to a component. So once you turn it to a component, you can then duplicate it. You know how I turned it into a component now? Just click on this button, then you create a component. So once I duplicate it and this and like that, whatever changes I'm making here, maybe I'm changing color, it automatically changes on the design since they are all from the same component. If I'm adding anything, it automatically adds. For example, let me add this hello James text. I'm adding it into my component. Can you see that it's showing everywhere? Let me give it a font size of 12. Can you see that it's showing everywhere? So that's repetition. You can never when you once you know that you'll be repeating so much of this very particular component or this very particular element, just turn it to a component for easy changes for yourself. So that's about repetition. So this thing is not aligned. How do you align it? Then you highlight the four of the items. We have the alignment tool here. You can either align everything to the left, you can align it to the right, you can align it to the middle. Can you see? You can align it to the top, you can align it to the middle. The middle for this one is middle horizontally, while the middle for this one is middle vertically. Can you see the difference? So you can align it to the bottom and then you can decide to give it equal spacing. For example, let us give it equal spacing vertically. Then the space between this one and this one to this one to this one is the same thing. And let us give it equal spacing horizontally. It automatically give it a equal spacing, and if you should check what's the spacing from here to here is 98 pixel, here to here 98 pixel, here to here 98 pixel. So that's how alignment work. There is no way you have to work with alignment, and that is very good. So for some kind of scenarios whereby you want to create alignment, you have these four element already and you know that you may want to like duplicate it and add something else in the future. You don't want to be measuring it again and be highlighting everything. You just create an auto layout. Once you give it an auto layout, whatever element, maybe you click on a particular element and you duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D, it automatically give it a spacing of 98 pixel. And if you want to, instead of you highlighting everything, just click on the frame for the auto layout and that's it. And you know this is 98 pixel, you can reduce it here, you can reduce it to 20 pixel and any form of pixel you want. So that's how auto layout works and everything in design and alignment. So and I've also talked about repetition. Let's move to the next one. I've also talked about repetition. We have proximity in design. So proximity is the maintaining of relationship between items that go together. Maybe you how do I put it? Maybe you are trying to like draw a shape, you are trying to like draw some specific form of shape and then you have to maintain some proximity. For example, maybe the way we have this text inside it, for example, let's have this text here. It's not really looking visual appealing, then you are not actually maintaining that kind of relationship very well. But if you should put it here and give it a margin at the top of 12 and at the side of 10, then your text will come out like very well and you'll be able to understand, okay, you'll be able to see very well for yourself that this is a very good design, that this is a very good design. But let's now imagine we having it at the top. Everything just looks so jam-packed and it's not looking professional. So that's about proximity and contrast. We already talked about contrast. Just the way we have our text in black and it's coming out very well on our white background. Same way contrast. That's how contrast works. You have to maintain the contrast. When the contrast is too close to each other, contrast of two elements that one is the background, one is the one at the top. Once they are too close to each other, your design won't be fine. And you can only use element of similar contrast when it comes to gradient. And this is gradient. Maybe you draw a shape, linear gradient, and then you give this one red. So maybe you now want to increase the contrast a little bit. Can you see that it looks much more visual appealing, although they are different contrast, but they are very close to each other. So but if you should use it on each other, it will never work out. But you use it as a gradient, it creates something much more sensational than you using it on each other. So that's how contrast work. The next one, space in design. So we have two type of space in design. We have negative space and passive spacing. So passive spacing, like I said earlier, when you are trying to create this stuff, I decided to give it a margin top of 12 pixel and 10 pixel. Those are in ten tional so that our layout will be very okay. When you are designing a flyer, if you see any flyer that they are having text at the edge, those one doesn't have passive spacing. And once you are not giving your design a good, very good spacing, then you are already missing it out. If you are designing a website, you must give it an automatically margin and padding. For example, let me go to um transfer. This is dashboard. Image. So for example, like this is an e-commerce website now. You can see the margin to the left is let me use this. Let me use something else. Something I know. I want to find a very good example. Okay, so can you see this? I automatically give it a margin to the width to the right hand side of like 40 pixel. That's what I give the whole page. And those are the passive margin that I intentionally did. You understand? Like you have to like do them intentionally so that you can give your design a very good layout. If I'm jam packing everything, maybe this one is at the edge, that kind of stuff, then your design will be like rubbish. So that's how you have to like check the margin, padding for everything, every of your design. You have to make sure that everything works. You have to give it a very good passive margin. So we now have negative spacing. And yeah, okay, like I said, passive spacing are the margins, the gutters. At the margins, the gutters. Den what they mean by gutters is the space between this one and this one. Those are what you like the way we have it as 30. So those are what you actually did intentionally. While negative one are the one that you didn't really plan for. They all just occurred. You don't have option and they just occurred. And when you are having so much you really need negative spacing, but you must not use a very so much negative spacing, like something very much more obvious when it's too much. So that's one of the reason why negative spacing is not good. For example, maybe something, maybe you are trying to occupy a text on a shape like this. Now carry this text up here, and then you are only making use of here. Normally automatically you already gave it a passive spacing of 40-40, but you are now leaving the whole of this side alone. Nothing is occupying it. You are giving it a negative spacing. The space is just there for nothing. So that's what negative spacing means. So you should know how should know how to you can read more about them. There are many articles about design. You can never read them finish. So you should read more. You can read more about the spacing and work better and know better on how to like improve it, how to improve your spacing techniques and both passive and negative. So next one is designing with Figma. I think that's all for this phase. Sorry, any questions so far?
No question.
Christiana, shey you understand?
Yeah, to a large extent.
To a large extent. Which one is to a large extent?
The place that I'm somehow confused about is when you are drawing the shape, but I guess when I start working on it, maybe just playing with it, I'll be able to understand more. Get.
Same here.
Okay, okay. So let me stop recording. I'm trying to like record